I've got another story here from TASS. I think TASS was the origin of this, so take that as you will. But I just wanted to mention this because I think it's extremely important if it's true. MI6 prefers Ukrainian sabotage group for missions in Africa, according to an unnamed source that the TASS is quoting. So let's just bring up the subheadline, because this is a quote. The task of the Ukrainian squad, formed by British Special Forces, will be to carry out sabotage attacks at infrastructure facilities in Africa and to assassinate African leaders, in cooperation with Russia. So the person that they have named as being in charge of the project is Vitaly Prashchuk, who's on screen at the moment in this tweet. So he has has past experience in successful liquidations, and has participated in MI6 operations in Zimbabwe in his past. So this is going back to well before the Ukraine conflict itself. And this particular tweet making the point that he has connections with British intelligence going back quite a number of years. Lieutenant Colonel of the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Service, and he, as I say, born in Ukraine in 1980, carried out offensive operations in Donetsk and Luhansk in 2014 to 2018. He's been commander of sabotage and reconnaissance squad during that time. In 2015, he was enlisted to the 73rd Center of Maritime Operations and served in Ukrainian military intelligence until 2017. He's now retired from the military, but seems to be now taking part in this particular operation. Let's just have a look at this. Why would they be so interested in attacking Africa if this is true? Well, here is Rosatom, because of course Russia and China, but Russia in this case, developing infrastructure very quickly in Africa, and this is not what the West wants to see. So in this case, providing them with nuclear reactors and civilian nuclear energy production, but also this. Now, this was originally announced. This is CAPS, the Central African Pipeline System. This was announced, I think, in 2021. It's still ongoing, and this article published in April says CAPS, the new gas megaproject, aims to power Central Africa, but what cost? Critics ask. Now, of course, it's getting criticism, but at the end of the day, the African nations, the North African nations and Central African nations are taking the attitude, if the West doesn't want Russian gas, if they're going to put sanctions on it, well, we'll get it because we need energy. So it's as simple as that. Now, I just want to, just before I get comment from Vanessa and Brian, I just want to show everybody or remind everybody of a little bit of video, which has got 30 seconds of it or so, of Ursula von der Leyen and Tony Blair, and just their attitude towards Africa.
Talking about Africa, this is not a typical place for NATO. We are very committed to NATO and other places, but Africa is a place where we need to be able to act as Europeans.
For example, one of the things that my institute does is work in Africa, and at the moment we're particularly focused on the Sahel group of countries. That's that band of countries across the north part of sub-Saharan Africa, where you've got exploding populations, dire poverty, radicalization and extremism. We may well face the next wave of migration and extremism from those countries. It makes perfect sense for Europe to have the military capability to help those countries with their security.
And for that, we created the European Defence Union.
Right. So I just wanted to remind everybody, you'll have seen that video, of course, was originally recorded, I think, in 2018 when Ursula von der Leyen was the German defense minister. But the point is, the interest in North Africa has been there for quite a number of years, and it is all about preventing Russia and China from gaining influence there. But this business of, Vanessa, British intelligence agencies involved in these types of operations isn't just a problem for the Africans.
No, I mean, I find it fascinating that they're going to be, according to the report, they're going to be taking, I guess, special forces from Ukraine. But who are those special forces? Are they the same mercenary special forces that were fighting alongside the Kurdish militias, for example, in northeast Syria? that we know are now fighting alongside the Nazi battalions in Ukraine. Are they going to be the ISIS terrorists or the other various terrorist derivatives brought in from Syria to Ukraine that are simply going to be percolated back into Africa, where, of course, they are already in existence, just under different branding? And does that then mean that those elements that were fighting, for example, in Syria alongside the various US and UK proxies are working with MI6, which of course is something that has long been suspected and proven by the multiple court cases that have fallen apart when those mercenaries have come back and been put on trial for working with terrorist groups? I mean,
yeah. Okay. Well. Look. Let's move to Al Tanf and At Tanf, if pronounced that properly. Al Tanf. So what's going on? What are the British up to there?
Well, this is interesting. Someone pointed out that it would be very helpful to have a map of where all these bases are. So I'm complying with the request from a UK column viewer, I think it was. So you can see Al Tanf down on the border with Jordan and Iraq. To the south is Israel, to the west is Lebanon, and then if you go up towards the border with Turkey and Iraq in the north, you'll see to the northeast, that's the entire area to the east of Deir ez-Zor that is occupied largely by the US and their various proxies, including ISIS and the Kurdish Contras. So what's happening at Al Tanf? Well, a video was discovered by a researcher friend of mine here in Syria. You can follow his Telegram channel at Believe in Syria, the Resistance Axis. And he found this video which clearly shows an armed group called Mahawiyah al-Thawra, which is a derivative of the Free Syrian Army. It's also known as the Syrian Free Army. It all gets very confusing with this rebranding. Being trained at Al Tanf camp at the illegal military base, US military base, by what I believe is a British special ops guy, because the Arabic is spoken with a British accent, but not being trained in military activity, as one might suspect, but being trained in media activities. So very interesting. Please roll the video, Mike.
Right, so we'll just say you need to read the subtitles on this, but let's have a look.
Yeah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين معز عباده بعيد.
Go ahead. That's fine. You can start over.
هو إشغال داعش في جبهات قتال ليتسنى لبقية فصائل الجيش الحر في سوريا لتحقيق النصر ضد النظام.
الحركات يعني اليدين يعني مو مشكلة، بس حركات الأجل بس بالضبط يعني ايوه تمام. افهم شوي يعني مو بسرعة، لا مشكلة، لدينا وقت. داعش أو دوائش هم جيدين. لماذا؟ في ربط بين الرسالة والأنشطة. إذا في رسالة دائما في أنشطة مع الرسالة، إذا في أنشطة في رسالة مع الأنشطة. تمام. أنت يعني ذكر التعاون مع التحالف الدولي. أحسن شيء نحن شريك التحالف الدولي على الأرض السورية. تمام. أنت الشريك. تمام. فهذا يعني هذا جيد بالنسبة للجماهير في المجتمع الدولي. تمام. أنت مو بس علاقات يعني عادية. أنت الشريك.
لا والذي فطر السماء ما هم بأمة خير خلق الله بادئا وانتهاء ما هم بأمة أحمد لا والذي فطر السماء ما هم
So
the ending. Ending. This was actually taken from a terrorist YouTube channel, by the way. So obviously they're also promoting themselves there at the end. But I mean, this is quite extraordinary. What they're actually training this guy to say is that we are fighting ISIS, whereas in reality, we know that in the exclusion zone around Al Tanf military camp and in Rukban refugee camp, which is to the south of Al Tanf, they are recruiting, arming, equipping, and training ISIS as well as these so-called moderate groups. You know, we know that the British Foreign Office has had a role in particularly the media portrayal of the war against Syria, the narratives, the so-called citizen journalists on the ground, the testimonials, the witnesses, and so on. We know that from the UK Foreign Office document leaks back in 2020, right? But this is the first time that we've actually seen it in action on Syrian territory with who is clearly a British special ops guy dealing in the training, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is grey zone power because we've got the sort of soft end, you've alluded to that with the media, BBC Media Action, for example, the diplomatic side of getting into a country. Then we have the training, which you might have special forces involved. This is training somewhere on the edge of that. And then you've got the full-blown military training where you've got the SAS or whoever it is going in and training these forces to subvert the country. This is a known procedure. Yeah. Somebody said CIA funding, but it could equally be British.
That's very likely to be conflict, stability and security fund money as well. So anyway, let's move on. If you like what the UK column does and you would like to support us, then please head over to community.ukcolumn.org. There are options for you to become a member there, and that would be very much appreciated. You could pick something up at the UK Column shop, but please do share anything you find on the various platforms, especially ukcolumn.org and ukcolumnextracts.co.uk.